Our top story, well, a strike by WestJet mechanics that led to hundreds of flights being canceled is over. WestJet and the mechanics union say that they have been able to reach a tentative contract agreement. About 680 workers walked off the job on Friday. WestJet scrapped more than 800 flights due to job action, which disrupted travel plans for tens of thousands of passengers over the weekend. Now it says that there will be disruptions in the week ahead as planes are going to be brought back into service. The union still needs to vote to ratify the deal. For more on this, we're joined by Duncan, former COO of Air Canada, joining us live now. Happy Canada Day, sir. Happy Canada Day to anyone waking up trying to fly somewhere today. So what do you make of this sudden end to what seemed like a very bitter negotiation?
Happy Canada Day, Phil. Well, I think that the end of this was as sudden as it began. We were certainly not attuned to what was going on behind the scenes, but obviously both parties were trying to work their differences out so that we could get to this point today. Unfortunately, for the 100,000 travelers whose flights were canceled, it's a couple of days too late.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I saw a lot of pictures of crying kids at the airport. Their vacations right after school wraps up just canceled. So now WestJet find themselves scrambling to salvage as many flights as possible. What do you think passengers might see in the next coming days?
Well, Phil, if we are able to take past practice in terms of situations like this into account, we should expect the rest of this week to be virtually a disrupted week as well. You've got WestJet announcing that they have 130 aircraft stuck at 13 airports across the country, and they will now have to reposition the aircraft and the crews to where they need to be so that they can restart their schedule. If the experience at Southwest Airlines, for example, a couple of Christmases ago, 2022 Christmas, was any indication, when they had weather and systems disruptions, it took upwards of 3 to 4 weeks for their network to restabilize. And so I think we're in for still a little bit more pain, still a few more cancellations, most definitely many delays, but things should gradually start to look a little bit more normal sometime in the middle of next week.
All right, well, that's good to hear for anyone who does have anything planned. So we're also hearing anecdotally people saying that WestJet's competitors, and in Canada we know that there's not a lot, have been taking advantage of the situation by price gouging. Now, would that tactic surprise you?
I mean, I think that consumers should keep in mind that those airlines, both Air Canada and Porter, were already running pretty full. This was not a middle-of-the-week strike in April. This was a Canada Day long weekend strike, which is the traditional kickoff to the summer holidays. So, anyone who was looking at the fares before the strike even happened would have noticed that if they could find a seat, those seats were already pretty pricey. So, you're not able to compare a economy class WestJet seat with a business class Air Canada seat, which is likely what was left over during this long weekend period. And so I think that the issue of gouging, prices were likely high. I don't know that they would have been significantly higher if people were looking at these same flights 2 or 3 days before the strike happened.
Yeah, no doubt. I think everyone's just really skeptical right now about just everything. So do you think the federal government had anything to do with this? We saw Seamus O'Regan, he put out a statement. He said, get back together and try to iron this out. So do you think the feds had anything to do with this quick and abrupt solution?
Look, I mean, I think that the federal government probably actually made things worse, by imposing binding arbitration, but still allowing a lockout or a strike. What they ended up doing was putting travelers in a very, very difficult spot. Everyone was reassuring travelers on Thursday night that things would be fine. The strike was off. And that they could proceed apace. That was, music to the ears of travelers, but also music to the ears of WestJet, because they shelved their plan to gradually draw down their schedule. And, the way the strike happened very abruptly on a Friday evening before a long weekend, meant that you've got now 130 WestJet aircraft stuck at airports they shouldn't be in. And so the recovery is going to take that much longer. And I think what happened here was really something we need to look at in the future, whenever we have situations like this where two parties can't seem to get together, if we're going to impose binding arbitration, we should make sure that both parties are at the table and not allowed to be striking.
And with that, you talk about how some people literally just stranded either at their destination trying to get back home or vice versa. And WestJet talked about, further damage to the Canadian public and their customers. What's it going to take for them to gain the trust back? Because a lot of people very scarred from this situation.
If we can look at what's happened in the past, it's going to take quite a lot of effort to get the public's confidence back. Let's not forget that this was the third strike threat that WestJet has had to deal with over the last few months. So it's not a question of this happening, once in a blue moon. This was happening pretty frequently. This is the third time. Luckily, it's also the last labor group with which WestJet doesn't have a valid collective agreement. And so hopefully things are going to be proceeding much more smoothly than now. But, one tip for travelers is WestJet is likely going to have to do that very popular thing to regain the trust of travelers, which is seat sales. And so, I think that's something that maybe travelers can look forward to as WestJet tries to regain its footing in the weeks ahead.
That'd be nice. That would be a happy Canada Day announcement, I think. All right. Duncan D., former CEO of Air Canada, thanks so much. I do appreciate you talking to us on this holiday Monday.
Thanks, Phil.
All right. Have a great rest of the day.